Good morning. It is 7:54 a.m. on Sunday, January 13th, 2019. I'm Christiana Ellis, and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. Feeling a bit better today. Still feel like the lingering bits of cold going through me, but I don't feel awful, which is, a good sign. Today is Sunday, which means that I'm continuing my rewatch of Gravity Falls with Season 1, Episode 10, Fight Fighters! Are you ready for a challenge? Anyway, this is a very silly episode, and I like it a lot. I think that if we were inclined to try to search it for a message, we would find that it's a little bit confused ultimately. I mean, what is the message that we're supposed to take away from this episode? That if someone challenges you to a fight, you should just let them beat you up? Is that the answer? Is that the message here? I mean, I'm not going to be the one to say that, oh yes, definitely fighting is a good way to solve problems, although I will say sometimes you have limited options. I am not one of those people who says that violence never solves anything. I mean, I think that it should be avoided whenever possible, but sometimes you don't have a choice. Anyway, so ultimately, Dipper, one thing that's nice about Dipper's character here is that ultimately he really doesn't want to hurt anyone, not even Robbie. And so his instinct when he has Rumble McSkirmish at his side, if anyone doesn't recall this episode, the brief synopsis is that after the last episode, Robbie and Wendy are officially boyfriend-girlfriend now. Dipper is jealous. He's mad. He ends up he can't help himself but provokes Robbie a little bit, and so Robbie challenges him to a fight. But then Dipper accidentally ends up summoning his favorite fighting game, video game character into the real world, which is amazing, and then decides, oh, you're going to be my bodyguard to protect me from this guy. But then he gets out of control and all of that. And so even when Dipper is, going through his poor decision-making part of the episode, he still doesn't want to actually hurt Robbie. He just wants Robbie to not hurt him. And so I think we can recognize that lying to Rumble McSkirmish in order to get him to do this, that is him being a bad guy. That's not cool. But at the same time, it's also not clear, again, like I'm saying, is like, was Dipper supposed to just say, the repeated line of hide like a wimp or face him like a man? I mean, Dipper's concerns about the fight were real. I mean, Robbie's much bigger than him. He's supposed to show up and let himself get beat up. What purpose does that actually serve? Now, what we see in the episode is that once Dipper does finally let himself lose the fight in order to defeat Rumble McSkirmish by making the game be over, and then being willing to let Robbie just also beat him up, without resisting, Robbie suddenly doesn't want to fight anymore. In real life, that's kind of not how bullying works. But of course, in this case, Robbie's not actually a bully per se. He's just got his own insecurities, and he resents that Dipper is attempting to compete for Wendy's affection. So it's really maybe a different situation in that regard. But again, the inciting incident of the fight was Dipper trying to stop Robbie from calling Wendy as a tease, and so Robbie's all like, well, I'm going to call her and tell her how much you like her and that sort of thing. And so he's just trying to stop Robbie from calling, and the phone breaks. And Dipper immediately says, I'll buy you a new one. Although that's a little bit like, really? How are you going to do that? But anyway, so I think even though the central messaging of this episode is a little confused, I am nonetheless amused by the setup and resolution of why don't you just hate each other in secret like girls do. That's pretty funny. But at the same time, yeah, I think that it's a little bit weird that the message of the episode seems to be, when someone challenges you to a fight, you should go face them and let them beat you up. I'm not sure I think that's a good message exactly. I mean, it's better, I suppose, than the one where it's like, no, you should find a way to win. I mean, that's not really better, really. Well, I don't know. It's complicated. Bullying stuff is complicated. Anyway, though, what this episode really shines as, though, is a plethora of video game references and jokes about how things that are very common in video games seem really silly in real life. For example, when Rumble McSkirmish needs power-ups, he wants food, but what he tells Dipper to do is put the food on the floor, and then he, just touches it, it disappears into a little menu, and then that's how he eats it. Just because, like in these fighting games, yeah, you'll find just food on the floor, and you just, yeah. So it's all very silly. I like that he has this idle animation, like where he's doing, and that's as still as he can stand. That's pretty fun. The heightened reality of his, fighting history, and everything is very important and stressed with the strange syllables. That stuff's good. I like that. And it's definitely, it's playful with its references. I love the bit where Dipper climbs a tree to get away from him, and he's thwarted because there's no animation of him looking up. I think that, that there was an uppercut animation, but I suppose that, he would still need to be able to see. Anyway, it's a silly episode, and I am actually in a little bit of a hurry, so I'm not going to be going too exhaustively through every single story beat this week. But it certainly, I like a lot of the references, crates and barrels incorporated with, the nice Donkey Kong references there. The closing credits gag with kind of playing on Super Mario Bros. 2 character selection screen, and lots of good stuff in this episode. There's so much fun. Lots of just silly little bits, but again, and then I guess we can briefly mention Seuss climbing in the machine, wanting to go inside the game, the Nort game, Tron spelled backwards. That's silly. It's fun. The saving Mabel saving Stan from his fear of heights, only to develop her own, is pretty fun. Yeah, but so in the end, what this episode is good at is lots of video game jokes, which are lots of fun and I enjoy. Ultimately, though, otherwise, I feel like it's a very much mid-plotline episode where they really can't resolve any meaningful tension. But the message is a little confused because they're not actually at the climax of that story yet, so we don't get any real catharsis. I do nonetheless like, from a storyline perspective, we'll just hate each other in secret like girls do. I like that mutual agreement between them. The idea that neither of them actually want to fight. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and leave it there for today, and I'll talk to you tomorrow for 5 more minutes. But remember, Saturday night, it's Sunday morning for me, but Saturday night, shortly after recording this and posting this, we'll be recording the first episode of This Space for Rent, which is the Space Casey RPG adventure. It's going to be fun, and I hope you can join us live. And if not, it'll be on YouTube. Check it out. All right. Talk to you tomorrow for 5 more minutes.